He's talking about David. David Barr says there's 2 grams of fat, but after it was tested, it was over 9. Not approved. You can see it in red. The David Barr, we can see 229.1 calories. It's a lot more than the 150 that was stated. It's a lot. Coach Greg, and in today's video, the David Barr and others under scrutiny for failing lab tests stating how many calories that they actually have. And so remember, labels are allowed to lie by up to 20%. But what happens when it's even more than that?
Our tests at Consumer Lab of all these protein and nut and energy bars, including brands such as David and Quest, Pure Protein, Cliff, and others, showed that some of these actually have far more fat, carbohydrates, or sugar alcohols than listed. I'm Dr. Todd Cooperman, president of ConsumerLab.com. Now, my biggest concern among these is that one of these bars actually had 7.5 extra grams of fat that wasn't declared on the label, which is equivalent to about 1.5 teaspoons of extra fat.
He's talking about David. David Barr says there's 2 grams of fat, but after it was tested, it was over 9.
The company that makes that bar responded to our results immediately and told us that they didn't think they needed to label that amount of fat because it's man-made fat that's not well absorbed, and they didn't count it toward calories either. That position, however, seems to be based more on animal research than human research. And even if it's true, it may explain why some people experience a waxy stool when they eat these bars. Also be aware that that fat may absorb some fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D and reduce the amount that you absorb of that vitamin.
We're talking about David, the fact that it has 154 calories. Now remember though, they have EPG. This is a very low-calorie fat from plants. Essentially what they did is they took all of these protein bars and they put it in a machine. They burnt it off to see how many calories are inside of that bar. And also, how much of it is protein, how much of it is carbs, how much of it is fat. And the David Barr, well, it failed with flying colors. You thought I was going to say it passed with flying colors. Not only was the protein not 28, which it claims, it was 23.6. But hey, that's within 20%, and so no big deal, right? It also had 230 calories, not the 154 that was labeled. Now, the David Barr argues, and they did in fact write a statement, they responded to this, and they said, look, we have EPG. It isn't normal fat. It's special fat. The fat that you can't absorb. And so based on animal studies, the calories aren't absorbed and it goes right into the toilet, causing a waxy, perhaps different substance than you're used to. Because of that, we don't have to label those as calories. And the FDA, it seems to agree. However, they responded by saying this. We don't see any human studies saying this. We only see animal studies. And so who's to say that this is true in actual humans? I mean, we all know that humans and animals are not 100% the same. And so what's actually the truth? What is going on? And so they're saying, look, your bar failed. We don't approve it. We're not going to recommend it. Other people say, we don't care. Animal research, that's all we need. Updates. David Fudge Brownie Flavored Bar. The chief of staff of David Protein emailed us late on the day we posted this review to clarify our findings for this bar, which was not approved, and it's bold and in red by us because we found 9.7 grams of fat per bar, much more than the 2 grams listed on the label. The label lists 2. It's clear as day. There's 9.7, also clear as day. And there is no mention of the 7 point whatever grams that remain. And so David says, we don't need to label it because it's a different kind of special fat that your body's not going to use. You can't absorb those calories. Now, There is, of course, the possibility that those calories aren't absorbed. That's what they're claiming. But they're saying if this is also true, there are in fact some dangers. For example, some of the fat-soluble vitamins, they could be absorbed into that fat and excreted without absorbing it. And so could it possibly lead to vitamin deficiencies? This company is saying, well, shouldn't we at least wait for human data, human trials to verify exactly what's going on? And shouldn't the people have to know about how much of this fat is in the bar? Why isn't it on the label? And so as of right now, the FDA doesn't need you to label it. And so could they, for example, put 50 grams of EPG in the bar and say, hey, it's only got 154 calories. The bar could be enormous and you would eat it, shit your pants like Mike Isertel when he eats a Gatorade bar. Shouldn't we, the consumer, have to know about these things? Like, if we have some magical new fat, EPG, that your body can't absorb the calories, shouldn't it be on the label? I mean, don't you want to know what you're actually consuming? And so this company is saying, look, we don't care. Your bar, it fails. Please don't send this to Will Tennyson, who's been eating 2 of these bars each and every day. The analysis was based on an older version of our product, 58-gram bar, which is no longer sold. All current David bars are 62 grams and reflect an updated formulation. Interesting. My bars are 70 grams. Theirs are 62. Theirs have less calories, but it has more EPG. And by more, it means we don't have EPG in ours. The fat discrepancy stems from the use of bomb calorimetry or total lipid extraction, which do not apply accurately to ingredients like EPG. Esterified propoxylated glycerol, that's EPG. EPG is a low digestible fat substitute approved by the FDA. GRAS notice number 791. It contributes 0.7 calories per gram and used 9 calories per gram based on human and animal studies. EPG only has 0.7 calories per gram. They're saying that it had 9, and so there lies the discrepancy. But the bar still says only 2 grams of fat. And so if there's actually 9.7, why doesn't it say 9.7 grams of fat? I mean, it literally is still a fat, is it not? It's an artificial fat, man-made from plant, whatever, but it's still fat. But that fat has fewer calories. And so don't we get to know that? Last I checked, those low-calorie breads and so on that have, for example, 20 grams of fiber, it says 20 grams of fiber. They still have to list it. People want to know, hey, what is exactly in this bar? What exactly is in this bread? Oh, 24 grams of carbs, of which 20 grams from fiber. Okay, I'm going to eat it or I'm not. With the David bar, the fat is listed as 2, but the other fat, it remains hidden. The average consumer would have no clue, no idea that there's other forms of fat in this bar. This is why our label reports fat and calories per FDA compliant standards, not based on combustion energy, which significantly overstates nutritional impact. This test, this machine that tracks calories, it's off. Remember, calories in, calories out. If you eat a 230 calorie David bar, and your body can only absorb 154 calories, then are you eating 230 calories or are you eating 154? I mean, to me, that's up for debate. How many calories are actually in it? And if the fat that you're eating has only 0.7 calories in it and not the 9 as was stated, well, does it actually only have 154 calories in the first place? And so just because the machine is testing the calories to see how many calories are inside of it, it doesn't mean that it's accurate. And so you can see the debate. Is David doing anything wrong? I don't think so. The nutrition labels don't require them to post it. The FDA says you're doing things correctly. And so just because this machine says, hey, you're lying, you're scamming, 230 calories, what is going on? That's more than the 20% that you're legally allowed to lie by. But they aren't lying. They're FDA compliant. However, what about the 28 grams of protein? See, it's only 23.6. That is a big difference. They wrote in response to David, several things are notable about this response. The fat. The company did not contest the large amount of additional fat from EPG that we found, which is the reason it was not approved. Instead, it focused on our calculation of calories in the product. Calories! They state, we were already aware of the position of EPG's manufacturer that it does not think that most of this synthetic fat is absorbed, and therefore it considers this synthetic fat to contribute to only 0.7 calories per gram. Unfortunately, we are not aware of any human study that demonstrates this minimal impact of EPG on calories. Only animal research. And so Will Tennyson, who's eating 2 David bars a day and had previously contacted me to find out about that peanut butter. Remember that video?
All I know is this product is 100% a scam. I would pray that they could make something that just would help you to not absorb all these fats and calories. I would 100% be using it.
So I just ate regular peanut butter.
They don't have the human research to say with certainty that it has 0.7 calories per gram. And so in the future, will we find out that the David bar actually has more calories than is stated? Weight of reformulated bar. The David bar was saying, look, these new bars are 62 grams, are completely different than the 58. They're saying, no, they're almost identical. There's virtually no difference. The list of ingredients and nutritional facts remain essentially the same as before, with only a slight change regarding salt and sodium and a slight reduction in carbs from 5% to 4%. Highly doubt that that's going to make a significant difference. FDA approved. We find it misleading for David to state that EPG is approved by the FDA, as the FDA did not approve it, but simply did not object to its use in food, as we previously discussed. I don't know, to me, that's being a little bit pedantic. We don't approve of EPG, we just don't disapprove of it. Being impartial here, I feel like that's being a little bit pedantic. If they didn't say that you can't have it, doesn't that mean that you can? EPG may bind to fat-soluble vitamins such as beta-carotene, vitamin K, vitamin D, potentially reducing their absorption in gut and vitamin levels in the body. Because much of EPG is not digested or absorbed, it remains in feces and can cause oily or waxy stools. In the study noted above, 29% of people consuming 10 grams a day, a little bit more than the David bar, remember that's close to 10 grams per bar, and 45% of people consuming 25 grams a day. Oily urine was also reported in a person taking 25 grams daily. And so if you're eating 2 to 3 bars a day, 45% of people would have problems with waxy or oily stools, as well as having gas. And if you're only consuming about 1 bar, close to 1 bar, 29% still reported some problems. There are online complaints about orange, waxy stools and the mess it causes from eating David bars, particularly when eating more than 1 bar daily. People have reported initially having no idea that the bar was the cause until eliminating other possibilities. And so maybe something has to happen with the labeling. Should people not have to know? Hey, why don't we write this? Fat, 2 grams, EPG 9 grams. And then if you want to have, and then if you don't want to consume EPG, well, you can read it on the label and the consumer will know about it. I'm all about full transparency. And so why doesn't the FDA just change the listing standards? Also of note, Kirkland's protein bar, the least expensive of the protein bars, was not approved due to excess sugar alcohols. So that's the Kirkland protein bar. I do believe they're sold at Costco. And here are results of all the bars. Not approved. You can see it in red. The David bar, it was the fudge brownie flavored bar. We can see 229.1 calories. It's a lot more than the 150 that was stated. 23.6 grams of protein versus the 28. And guess what? That gets a check mark. That's enough. It's approved because you only need to be within 80%. And so you could literally lie. You could say, hey, you know what? We want 20 grams of protein in the bar, and so let's just put in 16. 16 is 80% of 20, and so it passes. I mean, that is the standard. Does anyone think that that's close or good enough? 28 grams of protein and there's only 23.6. To me, that should be a fail, but hey, nobody cares. It's within 20%. And what was failed? 2 grams of fat. You can see it's listed in red. It says that there's 9.7. That's 482% more fat than was what was listed. Not approved. IQ bar chocolate sea salt. And why wasn't it approved? Well, it says total carbs 10. They found 17. It's a lot. Sugar alcohols, 1, found 3.6, not approved. Kirkland signature protein bar. Oh, I used to eat those. I recognize that one. Chocolate chip cookie dough from Costco. That one I actually used to like, but you can't eat many of those. It's like you get sick of it too quick. And it says 2 grams of erythritol, found 3.5, which is way over. It says 174% over what was listed. I mean, that is a significant difference. Now, personally, I don't care. Just put there's 4. Just add in more erythritol. Do you think I'm not eating a bar because of erythritol? And so why fail because of something stupid like that? It's something that nobody cares about. If you put 3 or 4 grams of erythritol and somebody says, oh, I don't want to buy it because of that, that doesn't happen. And so just put on the bar exactly what's listed.
Consumer Labs just did a test on various different protein bars in attempts to verify their macros on their label, and guess which bar came up a little bit short? The David bar. Now, during their test, they found it to actually have 230 calories instead of their labeled 150. Now, I personally do believe this to be an error with the testing instruments. The modified plant fat, or EPG, in this bar will show up as calories during a test, but it does not get absorbed by our body. The same thing happens when you test something with dietary fiber in it, so I actually think the 150 calories is legit. But what's even more interesting to me is that instead of the 28 grams listed on their label, they found just 23.6. This is about 16% off the label claims, but it's important to note that this does fall within the legal limit of less than 20% off. However, things get even more interesting when you look at the other bars they tested. Bear Bells, for example, came back at 22.6 grams instead of 20. So when you compare the two, they're a lot closer in protein than we originally thought. Now, to verify the validity of these tests, I reached out to Consumer Labs themselves and I asked if they tested multiple samples or just one bar, because I would expect some variance between bars. Like, let's say this one is 23, the other one's 33, it averages out to 28. But I did get confirmation that they do test multiple samples of each product. If you want to check out their full analysis, it's on their website, consumerlab.com. Unfortunately, it's behind a paywall. And for everyone asking for an update on the case, bro, I want one too. The legal system is slow. Hopefully in like 2 to 3 weeks, I have something more concrete to share. This is unfortunate to see. I was really rooting for them.
No sarcasm there at all. And so, as you know, I was trying to make a bar with EPG, was almost ready to be sold, and we weren't allowed. Sorry. And so the nutrition narc, I believe he was selling a sauce that had this in, and he had to put it on hold. And so he's taking them to court to see if it's legal to do so. And so time will tell. But hey, there's 16% less protein than was labeled. Is that a problem? Well, no, technically it's within the 20%. But if they change the packaging to say, David, 24 grams of protein, I think that people would notice that difference. And so maybe David needs to lower the protein to lower than last time. And so personally, I'm excited to see what ends up happening in all of this. I think that we should be labeling EPG as a thing on the backs of protein bars if it gets more popular. People should know what they're consuming. You're reading a bar and it says 2 grams of fat. What if you're sensitive to EPG? We know that many people are going to have some gas, some bloating. They're going to have stools with waxy substance. It's going to make them have a lot of difficulties. And so shouldn't you be allowed to know what you're consuming? Doesn't it make sense to say, hey, guys, we have EPG. It's been through some testing with animals and so on. The FDA didn't say it's not safe, so it's in the bar. Hey, why not just post that? And of course, if you're interested in the Seco bars, we sell them for less than half price of what they have. If you use code Seco, 50% off. I believe it makes it $20 or so. And so if you get to the website and you want to buy my Seco bars for $20, and you can do that. Or you can get the David bar for like, I don't know, way more than that. Do whatever you want. While you're there on the website, get the Turk Builder Max, the Turk Platinum. You can also get, if you're trying to diet, GLP Max to reduce your hunger by 28%. And of course, you already know about GO2 Max to improve your cardio, G-Test Platinum to increase your levels of testosterone, and the list goes on and on. If there's something that can help you, we probably have it. Last but not least, G-Focus Limitless. I do believe that is out right now. And so if you're interested in that, hunger than last time, even if you want to get hunger, man, we got Delta Sleep. We got harder than last time for the downstairs. We got your creatines. We got your beta alanines, your pre-pumps. you get Blue Lobster, Janicki Juiced, or freaking Hussein Mode, get to the website. And if you want me to coach you, apply right now. And of course, if you need tadalafil, Cialis and clomiphene, peptides and all that kind of stuff, and you need a doctor prescribe you, this is the best of the best. It's pharmaceutical grade. The doctor prescribes it. Only takes a couple minutes. Cheapest prices around. They're about half price of Merrick Health. And so if you're a millionaire, I strongly suggest you go to companies like Merida Health. But if you're not, perhaps you only make 6 figures a year, you should go to AlgoRx to save more money than last time on your blood work and all your pharmaceutical medical needs. And so interested in that, code Greg 10% off. And the other things like my supplements and the Momentous clothing, code Greg. I don't know if there's discounts ever. Go and try code Greg. If you can't, just buy it anyway. It's well worth it. And until next time, I am out.